Tom Coons, and I was in Payson, Arizona, and I'd been up there to go to Woods Canyon Lake. I was liking up there, and I was on my way home, and a red semi was not happy with the speed I was traveling at the time, and he kept trying to, threatening to rear-end me. And when I finally got to a point where I could let him pass me, his passenger rolled down the window and spit on me. And I figured, that was it. They got it out of their system, everything would be fine, hunky-dory, So, I had a little spit on my arm, it wasn't a big deal. But they continued to stay even with us, even with me in traffic. And I just assumed, I didn't think much of it, I figured, they were in a hurry, but I'm like, well, that's, here, there's sort of radar here, so they didn't want to get a ticket, so they're just going to stay alongside me. We were almost to the junction, 260 and 87 junction in Payson. Passenger again rolled down the window and just started chucking stuff out the window. We got to the final point where she just, I don't know what she had, some kind of 2 bottles of something, I don't know what they were. One of them looked kind of like watered down Coke, kind of brown. The other one, I couldn't really see what color it was, but I know it wasn't water, because it was some other color. But she proceeded to dump those out the window onto me and my truck. Then, after the balls were empty, she threw those out the window at us. We got down to the intersection, and she was just sitting there yelling, obscenities at me, and I'm like, well, this isn't going to stop until, I do something to make it stop. So I had a little 22 or automatic pistol in my truck, in my console, and I pulled it out, and I held it up to the window, if you continue, I just wanted to let them know, if you continue to, harass me, there are consequences to your actions. I didn't say I was going to shoot him, I just showed him the gun. They called the police and said that I should have pointed the gun at him, and then I was screaming obscenities at them and causing, threatening to shoot him and stuff like that. And I wound up locked up in Gila County Jail for aggravated assault with a gun. After I got released the next day, I had to, I knew I had to call a lawyer. I knew I was in trouble, so I knew I had to call a lawyer. And I went to one lawyer, and the first one I called, and the lady I talked to, she made it sound like, oh, okay, you're going to go to prison, just face the fact you're going to get locked up for about 7 years. So just face this, and all this. I'm like, oh, I don't know. This isn't someone I want to hire. So I went back and got into the phone book, and I found, Alex and Gaxiola in the phone book, and I thought, well, they sound, from what I've read in the ad, they sound like, this might be the people I want to call. And I called, made an appointment. When I went to my appointment, told him with Richard, and he said he put me right at ease. He's like, don't talk to him. He says it's obviously a simple, self-defense issue, and not to even worry about it. The case progressed, and from the original talk, it just seemed like it was not going to be a problem. It was going to be, you go up there, it'd be, charges would be dropped almost right away, just because it was some self-defense problem, but. I don't like to speak ill of the city of Payson, but it's like whatever your prosecuting attorney says up there in Payson, the judge just automatically just agrees with it. And that's what it was seeming like up there. And it got to the point where I thought, I'm really in deep trouble. And they'd offered a plea that seemed adequate. I talked to Richard about it, and it seemed to me that was the best route to go would be to accept the plea. So I told Richard, go ahead and let him know that I'd accept the plea, and that would be it. But it wasn't good enough for him. He just kept working on it. Talked to the prosecuting attorney up there, and told him, he says, he just, just the circumstances, just, he didn't do what he said he did, you guys need to drop the charges, and they dismissed the case. It was great. He called me up one day and told me, asked me if I was sitting down, and I'm like, oh man, no more bad news, And I said, yeah, I'm sitting down. He says, guess what? I said, what? He says, they dismissed the case, and yeah, oh man, it was like the biggest weight in the world had been just yanked off my shoulders and stuff. And I'm like, oh, I just screaming and hollering. I told him, I said, you know, you're the best, you know, and hung up, and then went and told my family about it, and it was over. I was free, a free man. You know, anytime something came up with a case, Richard would call me, and you know, we'd have to come down here to the office, and he'd meet with me and explain what was going on and all that stuff. So yeah, everything was handled exactly. I mean, like I said, there was never any question about what was going on with my case or anything like that. I was always kept up to date about what was going on. So I thought that was great. I would highly recommend him to anybody. I mean, I've talked to other people that, you know, have had problems with, you know, and with their criminal cases or even stuff, you know, simple cases, you know, and their lawyers were just horrendous. And I didn't have that problem. I mean, my lawyer was great.